Hi everyone, it's Ren here. I hope you're doing well. It's been a while. Um, I'm appearing today with an extra piece of clothing, mostly meant to not look like I'm a hipster, but meant to hide the fact that my hair is a mess and I'm ashamed. So today I would like to have a little bit of a discussion about the importance of writing your thoughts if you have philosophical or theoretical pretensions or otherwise, as opposed to simply reading. Of course, it's very good to read. It's very positive to have as much culture as possible with regards to philosophy, literature, anything else really. And that's something that is by all means to be encouraged. And personally, I'm not one of those people who think that youth nowadays are less cultured. I think they are perhaps in a different way through different channels. But like I teach a kid like every Saturday morning, and like he impresses me a lot with how quick he is. So I really do not have a lot of worries. Now that being said, if you're a bit older and you're the kind of person who thinks that they might have original ideas, original content, that would like to refine their ideas on certain things, then I would definitely encourage writing the ideas down. It's something that I've said before in a video on how to sort of approach philosophical writing from like a non-academic standpoint, but this is something that I want to sort of reiterate here. There's such a thing as a deep thought, and it's not the same as a shallow thought. Although a lot of shallow thoughts have the appearance of deep thoughts, and the thing is, they have the appearance of deep thought sometimes by design of being like mere appearances. For example, in sophistry, in rhetoric. But a lot of the time, that's the trickier thing. They have that appearance to the person themselves who think that the thought is not shallow but deep. And I think that that's something that is going to happen all the time in thinking, in talking, including talking to oneself. It seems to be a natural manifestation of a certain way to be for a human being, to be like, oh, I have a brainwave, and to think that that's a brainwave and then to forget about it, or to realize later down the line it's not such a great idea, or express it during a debate and for it to be refuted, or for it to win the day for a while and still not have a particularly long-lasting life, and in the end not to be a very original idea. So again, I think that the only way out of that is really to write something down, to write things down, ideas down, and then refine them through all the different layers of critical analysis and reevaluation that writing involves. It seems like a simple idea, but not a lot of people apply it, it seems to me. And I have a lot of debates, a lot of exchanges with a lot of very smart people who do not either have the motivation or the time to write down their thoughts. And my impression is that, in a certain sense, that the potential great originality and profundity of their thinking suffers from it. I'm not thinking about anyone in particular, but like throughout my life, I have had those impressions, insights, including, of course, with regards to myself. And I want to come to that. The basic intuition that I have is that there is no such thing as like a real eureka moment where you just some very deep thought occurs to you, because from the moment that you put it on paper and you start parsing it, and you do it carefully with intellectual honesty and integrity, not trying to ignore the potential like discrepancies that might appear, well, you're going to notice that actually, like, what initially seemed to be a very deep thought is actually quite superficial. Maybe the thought itself is not superficial, but the appearance of depth is superficial, which kind of ends up being the same thing. Now, that doesn't mean that the thought does not have the potential to be profound. It just means that, like, you're only at the beginning of the journey, toward making the thought profound. And in order to attain that profundity, you need to dig deeper through refining the thought, analyzing it, comparing it, synthesizing it with other observations, until it has proven to resist all those different like peelings away of what's actually not essential to the thought and not that original to the thought, and something remains, right? And a lot of the time, nothing remains. A lot of the time, if you're, again, like intellectually honest, you have to sort of just cast it away. No, it actually wasn't that profound. It wasn't that deep. It seemed that way, but on further analysis, that didn't happen. Well, if you only watch videos, speak, have debates, never write, you're not as likely at all to attain to that realization versus if you're writing down your thoughts and sort of allowing your thoughts to form a little microcosm on paper, which then becomes susceptible of being analyzed as a whole. And through that process, you end up sort of, you end up getting rid of all that does not belong to it as a whole, if you like. And sometimes there's no whole left, there's nothing left. And that's fine, because it's actually not so easy to come up with an original thought. I think that in a way, if post that all that like exploration analysis on paper through months and months, something remains, already a miracle. Happened to Hegel with the dialectic, happened to Wittgenstein with the picture theory, happened to Heidegger with Dasein and some other things. But of course, those authors, they didn't come up with these ideas straight away and just wrote them down. Those ideas were the product of an incredible amount of honing and refining and getting rid of a lot of surrounding hazy, deep-looking haze that in the end was completely unnecessary to the final product. But in order to be able to analyze how to get rid of that, you need to do a lot of work, and the work needs to be digging, which cannot be done as easily in speaking for obvious reasons. When you're writing, you just spend so much time with the thought, and it is on paper, it's in front of you. You never forget about it. You focus on it, and you'll see what happens eventually. And if you only read, sure, you're gonna have a pretty impressive culture, which is great, but it's not enough to have deep thoughts. To have deep thoughts, you need to write. And in fact, not only does being very cultured not correlate with coming up with original deep thoughts, but it's not even actually a real condition. It's probably a condition to have some culture, especially appropriate to the domain in which you want to have thoughts, write, and discuss things in writing and in talking. But it's not necessary to have a super large culture. If you like, you could see that a large culture as just this field. It's very big, so you have a very great surface area, but it doesn't have a lot of depth. Whereas you could have a smaller surface area. A field has a smaller surface area, but it's very profound. It has a lot of depth. All right, so it has a lot of different layers in the soil. And maybe you could say that that's the Wittgenstein, for example, who does not strike me as having been a super mega cultured person. If you compare Wittgenstein to, say, a Deleuze or an Umberto Eco, for example. But he was damn profound, and the proof is his concepts are still alive today, and they're influential. I'm not saying that Deleuze is not influential, but I'm just saying, you do not need to be super cultured. You can be reasonably cultured and still have very original thoughts. Wittgenstein was focused on his things. He didn't want to write about anything else. That what he was interested in, it was a few things, not just one thing. It was not a massive amount of things, but he attained great depth. So culture is important, reading is important, it gives you culture, but sometimes it, depending on what your purpose is, it might be good to just say, okay, I will read a bit less because I want to make more room for writing. At some point I'll be exhausted from writing, so I'll just fall back on reading because reading is a little bit easier. And that can be a very good decision if you want to be, I think, an original writer, an original thinker. So anyway, that was my perspective, and let me know what you think about that and if you thought that was useful. See you guys.